Every business has its own story. That story starts with the heart, soul, blood, sweat, and tears of the entrepreneurs and those who support them. I've been an entrepreneur my whole life, and I've devoted my adult life to helping others realize their dreams of owning and growing a business. I'm constantly inspired by those who put it all on the line to build their dreams. I'm compelled to tell you these stories. This is about the people who are giving it all to help better the world around us. This is Constant Purpose, small businesses changing the world. Today, we're visiting WRSTBND in New Orleans, Louisiana. CEO and co-founder Conway Solomon leads a team of tech engineers and event producers to work with one of the things that New Orleans is most known for, big events and festivals. WRSTBND provides the technology that lets attendees enter the event, access certain perks, and even pay for food and beverages by linking their credit card to the wristband. You want that super special secret backstage access? You better have the right wristband. Well, Conway, thank you for hosting us here, man. What a beautiful space.
Thank you.
I know it's been a long time in the making, and I'm finally glad to get over here.
Me too.
After all this time. And I'd love to just have you kind of tell us a little bit about the journey in starting WRSTBND and what you guys do. So tell us a little bit about the evolution here.
Yeah, so we officially started the company in 2019. We created it by separating and carving out a division of a business that my brother actually began in the event production space. So we came from the world of staging, lighting, rigging, sound, really kind of like the boots on the ground and behind the scenes, the down and dirty, I would say, of the festival and the event world. Mm-hmm. During that time period, we had kind of been building some behind the scenes kind of technologies and products that were at the time just intended to support basically their customers. It wasn't intended to be a product or even a company of its own. That was kind of a far thought that we never really dreamed of. But just kind of over time, it kept growing and growing. And so eventually in 2019, we separated and created what is now known as WRSTBND. So today we kind of sit and serve, providing about 150 clients this year at different events all across the country, as well as in 5 or 6 other countries at this point. No physical kind of offices or presence there yet, but sending people back and forth and equipment. Learned a lot with international travel and customs and whatnot there. But about 50 to 60% of our clients are still music festivals of some type, food and wine, EDM, whatever you kind of think of when you think of or kind of hear of a festival that's happening on a weekend. Okay. About 30% of our work is now sporting related. So we do a ton of work for the PGA Tour, for the NFL, for Major League Soccer, the Boston Athletic Association, the USGA. So kind of really grown in that space. And then the kind of last group of our work is what I would describe as kind of like corporate conferences and conventions and stuff and whatnot that are not as fun or as exciting generally, but they have a lot of work and they need what we do, just as much or kind of in that same capacity.
Where do you think this source, you seem to love events. I know your brother loves events. Where does this come from? Do you think it's from growing up here where we're in a city with just like one nonstop massive event after another and party? I mean,
New Orleans,
what's the source of this?
Yeah, that's a funny question. Like New Orleans definitely had a lot to do with it. I mean, I think, anybody that's from here goes to probably more festivals per capita than anywhere else. And I have learned most of those festivals are not the most legitimate. There's a lot of mom and pop ones, which is fine. And we've come to grow and support, especially in New Orleans. Like I still love doing a bunch of the small festivals here. Like we do the Croatian Festival on the West Bank and Beignet Festival in City Park. And there's still fun, like small ones in there that I just think are not just like a good thing to do for the community, but are just like fun to be at and whatnot. So we still do a bunch of those, but I think it was being in New Orleans for sure of kind of like just seeing the amount of different festivals and events. But I think more than that, honestly, especially for myself, I get really bored really easily. And I was always worried, like as a kid, honestly, that like I was never going to find a job that kept me like emotionally and intellectually like intrigued perpetually, because I was always just like, oh my gosh, I could do something for 6 months and wake up one day and be like, what was I, why did I do that? Like, right. And just like be over it. And then when Gary started, my brother Gary started his company, I was actually still in high school at the time, and just started working with him like on events. And then in college I started traveling with him, flying around, like doing events on the weekend. Like I would leave San Diego, fly to New York for the weekend, run a show with him, and then come back and back in school on Monday. And it was like, whoa, I think all those pieces just like I found to be really intriguing, and I still like wake up every day and I'm just like, what are we doing this week? And it's always something new, it's always something different, you know, just because events are just so dynamic in that way, in that manner.
Yeah, that hits a lot of themes of the true entrepreneur. You know, you have just the ups and downs and the getting ready, and it's like it's almost a performance for you all too. So these artists going there, perform, there's a lot of energy. But yeah, it's always changing dynamics. So it's hard to get bored. And then you're sort of committed to that date and that span where you can't move it. You've got to make things happen. So you can see why that's exciting. You know? Yeah.
I think of that performance piece a lot, where it really is like we are putting our own show on behind the scenes with our own equipment and our own team and our own technology, where it's like, you know, it has to work really well and dance really well, and it's a balance. Like it's not easy, you know. I wouldn't say it's rocket science, to be clear. I don't think it's. That's why I've always kind of laughed at some of like our like quote unquote competitors in the manner of like, they don't really get it, but I'm like, it's not that hard. You just gotta do it well and understand the variables that you have to take into account and all the things that can go wrong, and understand like where your plan B's and plan C's, and whether that's through technology, you know, it's through certain features, or it's just knowing as a team, like what do you do when this happens? Like who's the first person that you call and how do you handle it? And
these relationships, these family and friend kind of support relationships are really vital. And this is a thing that comes up with, you know, so many people I talk to, is like the role that their family and friends have played in helping them get through the ups and downs of being an entrepreneur and building something. I mean, even my family and yours goes back pretty far. Your grandmother lives
down the block. Yeah, my mom. I saw you riding bikes that day a couple months ago.
Yeah, my dad was like originating loans for your family's banks.
I always forget about that part.
So like I grew up kind of hearing about your dad, and I've since come to know him better and love him. But, you know, it's same thing. Like we have everybody over to the office for Mardi Gras. It's like everybody brings their families and friends. We take, you know, company trips to Jazz Fest to go hang out. And if you're working really hard, you're trying to make an impact both on yourself and others, you've got to be close. And, you know, I don't know if you want to say anything more about that, but it just seems like you have a great support network of wonderful people who are, you know, around you, and you're going to great lengths to nurture it.
I appreciate that. And I think that's completely accurate. And again, it's mostly because of all the other people, not me, that added so much to it. But I've never once not had anybody just be more than willing and open to help however possible, you know, especially in New Orleans. Like you can call anybody, and yes, very appreciative of like the relationships and whatnot that our family has and have through the kind of years. But I fully believe that New Orleans people are just always more willing to help New Orleans people more than, like to your point, in Santa Clara or wherever, where it's like they just don't have that. It's just, you can't just ask some basically stranger that's one connection removed or something, you know, for advice, and that they're responsible. Like, let's have lunch next week. Come over to my office. I'll help you however I can. And I think that's really special. And it's something that, you know, honestly, I still don't think is even leveraged enough by companies in New Orleans. I think sometimes we even forget how many people are in this city that, you know, are willing to help you however possible. And, you know, I'm sure other startups and whatnot have their own opinions, but I really believe, like, through, you know, especially with Idea Village and all the work that they do and all the connections that they've been able to make, like, when they say that, you know, pretty much anybody in New Orleans will take your call, they mean it. And those people have no upside for it other than for the sake of going, you know, you're in New Orleans and we're both from here, or whatever the case may be. Or you married a girl that's from here and you end up here, and it's like you hear that.
That was a big attractor of talent for me, seemingly. You know, like, that was funny.
But it's true, and it's like, you know, the other places that I've lived, as much as I love those other cities and whatnot. It just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So for as many, quote unquote downsides as people might say there are in New Orleans, I'm a full believer that the upsides are still greater. At least with where we're at, it hasn't proved any differently thus far. So, we're going to kind of keep leveraging that as long as possible, I think.
Awesome, man. Well, let's go see this beautiful office.
You want to do it?
Yeah, this is great. There's a lot of tech built into this stuff. Wristband integrates RFID and NFC scanning hardware, edge computing, real-time mobile transactions, and back-end processes. Wristband's made a name for itself using cutting-edge technology. All this in an industry that's been using paper tickets for decades. If Wristband does its job right, you'll never even need to think about the complexities of managing thousands of attendees. But as Conway shows us, there is a lot to think about to make an event run smoothly. All right, so Conway, this is a beautiful device here that looks like you developed. Tell us what this is and how it works like in the wild.
Yeah, so this is what we call the NTR6. It's short for Enter 6, there's no vowels, hence everything else at Wristband. This is a access control scanner. So basically this is what we use for the primary entries at an event, VIP areas, backstage, etc. Somebody walks up to this, again, it's mostly used with wristbands, but it could be like a badge or it could be your phone. Tap your wristband, whatever your media is, it's going to go green or it's going to go red, or you can actually change whatever color you want it to go to. So we can set that on the cloud side. A lot of our events will do something where like VIPs will get gold, or maybe they have a sponsor like Amex and they want it to go the blue and make a certain sound or whatnot. So you can change all that. You can also change which color. This is called the waiting color, or we call it the attract color. Yeah. So like what color is it when it's waiting? Which pattern is it kind of doing across the top? There's also like actually a screen on the other side, although I don't think I put my name on this one, so it might not say welcome, but it usually will say welcome Conway. Okay. I just forgot to type in my name when I registered this one for you to show you. So this is what shows us everything about like which gate or which location that it's attached to. Okay. So, if you move this device from the front gate to the back gate, there's different people potentially that can get into there. So you can just pick from the touch screen here, whenever it boots up, you can just pick from the list of gates, like which one you're actually at. Okay. And then it basically just kind of runs like that. And
is this way usually facing the public, or is that like the person at the control point?
This would normally be facing like the guard. Okay. So the guard who's kind of like got it facing towards them, that's usually what they're kind of trying to like keep an eye on.
Okay. And they can see like the person's name will pop up.
Exactly. So they can see exactly, or if it, a lot of times like if we deny somebody, so I think this should work. Yeah. So this was from a different event, but just to kind of show you, we can change the message that'll be on the screen. So a lot of times it might be wrong day or wrong area or wrong zone or something, or, it's just a completely random tag. Like this is not even this event, it's just something completely unknown. Yeah. It'll say see box office or whatever you want it to say. Because one of the big things is that we've kind of learned is that if you just give them green or red, when it goes red, they just assume it's not working unless they know why. So we don't want to just like deny somebody, we want to deny them with a reason. So it tells them, it helps them with, the guard gets in less arguments because they're like, hey, it's not me, it's the system. It's wrong day or...
Yeah, and so if a festival wants a physical media, they can embed a little RFID chip or something in here.
Yep. And then
or an example. And then if they don't want any of that, they can just...
You can use your phone. There's a barcode scanner attachment that we have for this device. There's a USB port on the bottom, so you can either plug in a wired or a wireless barcode scanner. Yeah. So like, we call our nicknames for them are kind of hilarious, but we call one the grocery gun, which is basically when you're at a grocery store, like the little wireless gun. So what's cool is like we'll do an event, like the US Open does this for all their front gates, because theirs is a unique one because talking about like a hybrid approach earlier, if you're just GA, you only get a barcode. If you're VIP or hospitality, you get a wristband because you're coming in and out more frequently. So they don't want you to have to like take your phone out each time. But we can like deploy these and kind of set them up for however they need it at that event. This can sit on top of a pedestal like you kind of see over there in the corner with branding and wrapping. There's a bracket that a lot of clients will mount this to like a barricade or to a bike rack. And so it literally just snaps and attaches directly to it. You walk up to it, you can scan. And then, like you said, and then there's also the wired barcode scanner. There's one sitting on the shelf over there, but if you want to just have it sit right on top, you can walk up to it, scan your barcode. Some credentials that don't do RFID will use a barcode on it. Okay. So, you walk up, again, it's just a trade-off sometimes with like security.
Right. Barcode's probably
they're easier to copy or fake. Now, we still have a lot of things on our side that will prevent it. So you can only, if we set and say that a credential can only be scanned in one time per day, or they have to scan out before they can come back in, we can still help kill and like keep it out, but it just adds a lot to like potential like customers getting confused, or they buy a fake ticket and don't know it, and then you feel bad for them and you kind of can't do much about it at that point. So I'd say that most events that care about the security side will still use either RFID, whether it's a physical thing or, like I was telling you earlier, just like you use your Apple Pay, where you're not scanning a barcode, you just like wave your phone. Exactly. You can do that on this device as well.
That's super
cool. So you can do like all the access control here. We also have some mobile devices, so this does the same thing. Basically, the difference is you just tap it right here to the back, or there's a barcode scanner as well. This is what's used for all of our point of sale applications, because it can take a credit card, like I said, or if you have a wristband with a credit card associated with it, you can just tap your wristband to check out and it'll just bill your card. It's just like a bar tab. You just get charged for whatever you spend. If you don't spend it, you don't get charged, so you don't have to worry about like money that's left over or anything like that. It's really just like linking it, and you just get, again, you get billed for whatever you spend.
Very cool. And then you were pointing out that one's more like a self check-in. Kind of.
This one's a little heavier, but this one is more of a concept. This one does have more apps on it just because, but basically it's not logged in. This is the credit card reader and the wristband reader. So you can walk up to it, you can tap your wristband, insert the card, and it's completely self-service. It's got a battery built in, so you can kind of like deploy these onto different tables or different desks or whatnot. Cool. So this is more of like our self-service, whereas these devices are generally more like somebody's like helping you or doing it, whereas like this is intended that you can run and operate it by yourself. This is just off right now. So this is kind of, these devices all run on iOS. So this is a big iPad, that's an iPad mini, and those ones are iPhones. So we didn't obviously design or build any of those. We wrote all of the applications that run on there. It all talks back and forth. So like if you scan something on here, the handheld will know about it within 3 seconds. It all goes to the cloud, syncs back down, so all the devices like will get any of those updates that it missed. It all synchronizes and stores locally to the device, but it's just a matter of like, depending on the event, which devices make the most sense logistically, easier to deploy if there's like a trade-off there. So like longer events, if they're running 3 or 4 days, they love these devices because they don't have to worry about batteries or charging or anything like that. No guard's gonna walk off with it. But if it's just like something quick and it's easy, ship them handhelds, it's great. You don't have to worry about power, you don't have to worry about they have cell cards in them as well. Actually, this one does as well. Cell cards as backup, so you can even just like get running. But these work really, really well for like high traffic areas where you just have a crazy amount of people or throughput or a long deployment. You can do about 1,200 people in an hour on one of these devices. So you can say as soon as you tap, that decision is happening right there locally. You're on to the next person. The slowest part is usually just people being like queued up and ready to go. The scanning itself is about as instant as it, can be. And then it's really just a matter of like getting people ready. And that's usually the slower part. Or like magnetometers, bag check. That's the slow part anyway. It's not the scanning to get into the event. It's the little things sometimes.
Well, super cool.
So you want to walk around? Cool.
When you walk into Wristband's office, you immediately notice the care, design, and organization that went into their office space. In this office, everything has a place. Workroom cabinets are just as fun and fascinating to look through as the employee arcade. This place is an organizer's dream. This is the most zen startup place I've ever seen, and everything's built for efficiency.
So here we are at Wristband's headquarters. We moved into the space at the beginning of this year, so feels like longer, but we're still kind of sometimes getting settled. It's like building a house. There's always stuff that goes wrong with it, but we love being in this space. This is kind of our common kind of hallway entry area, and then like as we go down this hall, these are all of our main offices along the left side. But this is where we do all of our mail fulfillment. So we did last week in 2 days, we did 7,000 mail orders for a music festival out of this one room. Wow. So we bag them all up and then we bring our truck over and go drop them at the postal service at night, and it's super, super nice.
You said that was like an evolution of the business model, like before?
Yeah, we didn't have that before.
Sending people to distribute on site, or just have the customer do it?
That's right.
And then you're like, hey, there's a better way to do this.
There's a better way to do it. You know, we're not the only ones that obviously do mail fulfillment, but the nice thing is that like, if you're already working with us, this is the same exact system. So it's activating the wristbands at that point. You don't have to worry about like what used to happen is if you have another fulfillment company, they'll ship it and then they'll have to like email us a list of something and we have to import it. And it's just like there's so many places it goes wrong. So yeah, that's kind of our fulfillment room. We've got some down this hall, not too much, but there's some phone booths so you can go and take a call. If you need to close the door, you've got a little computer and desk in there.
So it's like felt soundproof.
So we got some nice rooms.
Close this, I scream.
Yeah. I'm sure your microphone will still hear you. This is the warehouse / where we build all of the portals and all of the devices. So
super cool.
Yeah. So this room was the medical lab before. So like the walls were existing, like this was this room, but it was like literally medical benches and tubes, and they were doing like DNA testing and stuff here. Oh, wow. So it was like, the joke was we had to like get rid of the bad juju, the bad vibes that were in here.
Who designed like the organizational features of the warehouse?
Not me. I can tell you that much.
I'm admiring, because I'm trying to like I don't even want to get into it on camera, but I do stuff at home and I'm trying to get all my little workspaces like organized, and I'm like, this is masterful.
They are putting all the equipment and everything on that quote, and then once it's actually been approved by the client, it then just gets converted automatically into our system into a pull sheet. So David and his team can start scanning everything. We know exactly what goes into each item or into each package, which barcodes, if you need to add anything like work boxes or things that are not generally like part of the quote. It's not really something somebody's paying for, but it's just like accessories or whatnot. They can add all that on there, and then that way whenever it's time to actually send it out, he just goes through and scans everything, and then when it comes back in, they scan it all back in, and like I said, it gives you a report that's like, here's what didn't come back. So it's very, very efficient, especially when you have that much equipment floating around, of knowing like what goes where and if something goes missing or anything like that. So these are all of our developers. I'm gonna turn on the lights for a second, sorry guys. I know. So this is all of our developer space. We've got 7 developers in here right now. And so they handle all of the software, all of the hardware, like all the different mobile apps, everything that we build. We also do all the hardware development in here. So Jack's back here, who's our hardware engineer. So he's the one that actually designed and built. What's up, Jack? How's it going? I'm making a little video. So Jack's the one that actually designed and built all the internal components and whatnot of the portal. So, you mind if I mess with this real quick? Oh, there you go. So we built like a custom PCB board that this is what's running inside of the portals. And then we're kind of back in the fun space. Philip's our VP of Finance, his office. My partner and Jonathan and I have our office back here in the corner. And then, like I said, like this is, everybody has lunch out here.
Thank you to Wristband for letting us visit their office today. New Orleans loves a good party, and we're proud to have so many events in this town. It's really easy to see how a company like Wristband has grown out of this environment. These guys embody that thing that we seem to do so well here, literally taking a good time to a global level. Their attention to detail and their understanding of how technology feeds into bigger events continue to propel the company forward. We absolutely loved getting to experience their fun and inspiring place. And let this be an example of how the best things grow organically from those cultural roots that we live and breathe each day. Take this and let this be the inspiration for your next big thing.